People think they've seen every great World War II Britain ever made. The truth? You've probably missed some of the best. These aren't glossy Hollywood blockbusters with slow-motion hero shots. These are gritty, unsentimental, and sometimes downright weird portraits of war. They'll pull you in, shake you up, and leave you wondering why no one talks about them anymore. How many of these hidden British epics do you actually know? Stick around. Some of these stories aren't just forgotten, they're practically buried. The Cruel Sea, 1953. Some war movies are about medals and parades. The Cruel Sea is about survival, plain and brutal. It plunges you into the Battle of the Atlantic, following British Navy sailors whose biggest enemy isn't just the German U-boat, it's the ocean itself. Commander Erickson, played by Jack Hawkins, looks like a man carrying the whole war on his back. His crew are ordinary men, tired, seasick, and scared, yet they keep going. The film is packed with details you can almost feel. Choking diesel fumes in the engine room, salt water stinging your eyes on deck, endless hours staring for periscopes. And then there's the moment that defines the film. Erickson must choose between dropping depth charges on a U-boat and possibly killing his own men in the water, or letting the enemy escape. There's no right answer, only the cold, cruel logic of war at sea. When it hit cinemas, it became one of Britain's biggest box office hits. Critics hailed it as one of the most honest war films ever made. Outside the UK, silence, which is criminal, because The Cruel Sea doesn't just tell you about the war, it makes you feel it, one gray, merciless wave at a time. Victory here doesn't look like triumph. It looks like making it home, alive. The Ship That Died of Shame, 1955. Forget big battles. This one's a ghost story disguised as a war film. 3 ex-Royal Navy men, played by Richard Attenborough and George Baker, bring their beloved motor torpedo boat out of retirement. But instead of hunting enemy ships, they're smuggling cigarettes, booze, and eventually much darker cargo across the channel. What makes it gripping isn't just the criminal turn, it's the way the ship itself seems to decay with every shady job. Once sleek and deadly, it starts breaking down in strange, almost supernatural ways. The film never explains whether it's bad luck, mechanical failure, or guilt eating away at the vessel and crew. Post-war Britain is painted in shades of gray, battered, broke, and looking for purpose. The men aren't swaggering heroes anymore. They're restless, disillusioned, and doing whatever it takes to survive. The cinematography leans into that mood, framing the boat like a haunted relic. Audiences in Britain admired its strange, moody power. Americans? They didn't get it. Too bleak, too slow, too morally messy. But that's exactly what makes it great. This isn't about winning or losing. It's about how the war's shadow stretched long after the last shot was fired. Watch it, and you'll feel that ghost in the engine room. Ice Cold and Alex, 1958. In a desert war movie, you expect sand, heat, and gunfire. You don't expect the most suspenseful moment to be a glass of beer. Ice Cold and Alex is about survival, not glory. Set in North Africa, it follows a ragtag group pushing a broken-down ambulance across the desert, dodging mines, enemy patrols, and their own doubts. John Mills plays Captain Anson, a man visibly cracking under pressure. Alongside him are Sylvia Sims, Anthony Quayle, and Harry Andrews. All so natural it feels like you're watching real people. The desert isn't just a backdrop, it's an enemy, frying their minds and draining their hope mile by mile. There's also the mysterious South African hitchhiker they pick up, a man whose motives are never fully clear. The tension builds in silence as much as in action, and the payoff isn't a big battle scene. It's the moment they finally reach Alexandria and order that ice-cold lager. That beer has never looked so good. When released, it was a hit in Britain but sank overseas, which is a shame because it's one of the best examples of small-scale war storytelling. No explosions needed, just heat, grit, and the stubborn will to take one more step. The Wooden Horse, 1950. Before The Great Escape made prison break stories flashy, The Wooden Horse kept them quiet, methodical, and nerve-shredding. Based on a true story, it follows 3 British POWs in Stalag Luft III who dig a tunnel right under the noses of their German captors. The trick? They hide the entrance under a homemade gymnastic horse carried out to the exercise yard every day. While one man vaults over the horse, 2 men dig underneath. No roaring music, no hero speeches, just patience, dirt, and the constant risk of being caught. The cast included actual former POWs, and that authenticity bleeds into every frame. The repetition of the digging scenes is deliberate. It makes you feel the grind, the claustrophobia, the ache in your arms. The final escape isn't a fireworks moment. It's almost understated because for these men, this wasn't about cinematic glory. It was about clawing back a sliver of control over their own lives. It did well in the UK, but never found fame abroad. Maybe because it's not loud or glamorous. But ask any veteran, this is the one that gets it right. The heroism here is quiet, stubborn, and unforgettable. Angels 1-5, 1952. Most Battle of Britain films focus on the dogfights. Angels 1-5 spends just as much time on the ground. Jack Hawkins stars as Group Captain Tiger Small, leading a squadron through Britain's darkest days. But the real stars are the little details. Ground crews patching bullet holes, pilots joking to hide their fear, and officers trying to keep everyone in the air just one more day. The aerial scenes, built from real RAF footage, feel raw and authentic. When the scramble bell rings, you can almost smell the fuel, but the film doesn't shy away from the cost. Pilots go missing, mistakes are made, and the tension never lets up. There's humor too, the kind born from shared danger. Men trade barbs, grumble about orders, and cling to moments of normalcy. The film captures the camaraderie and the exhaustion in equal measure. Veterans praised it for getting the balance right, showing the glory without hiding the grind. It was popular in its day, but now you'll only hear about it from hardcore aviation buffs. Which is a shame, because it's one of the most grounded, human takes on the Battle of Britain you'll ever see. The Colditz Story, 1955. Before prison escape movies became all about charm and spectacle, the Colditz Story gave us something better. Truth. Based on Pat Reed's memoir, it takes place in Colditz Castle, the Nazi prison for incorrigible Allied escape artists. The Germans thought it was escape-proof. The British took that as a challenge. John Mills plays Reed with a perfect mix of quiet intelligence and iron will. This isn't one big breakout. It's dozens of attempts, many of them failures. Tunnels collapse, plans are betrayed. Every day is a chess match with the guards, every move calculated, every mistake costly. It's also surprisingly funny. The POWs pull elaborate pranks, sneak contraband radios into camp, and generally make life miserable for their captors. That humor isn't filler, it's survival. Without it, the boredom and hopelessness might crush them before the Germans do. When an escape finally works, it doesn't feel like a victory parade. It feels like defiance, a small but priceless win against impossible odds. British audiences loved it, and it briefly reignited interest in Colditz's real-life legends. But as bigger budget films came along, it slipped into the shadows. Which is unfair, because this one proves that sometimes the bravest weapon isn't force, it's persistence. Dunkirk, 1958. Years before Christopher Nolan gave us his blockbuster version, Britain had already told the Dunkirk story, and it was every bit as tense. This version splits its focus between two desperate fronts. On one side, John Mills leads a ragged band of soldiers trapped in France, inching their way toward the coast through wrecked villages and relentless German fire. They're exhausted, hungry, and down to their last scraps of hope. Every casualty hits like a gut punch. Back home, Bernard Lee plays a mild-mannered journalist pushing the public to act, rallying civilians for the rescue mission. It's one of the few war films that gives as much weight to the home front as the battlefield. When the little ships finally set out, fishing boats, pleasure cruisers, anything that could float, the moment isn't played for swelling music. It's sweaty, dirty, and filled with uncertainty. This isn't a patriotic poster. It's what real courage looks like. The film was a major UK box office hit in 1958, but it's been overshadowed ever since, which is a crime because it nails the chaos, the grit, and the stubbornness that turned disaster into survival. Sea of Sand, 1958. This one proves you don't need massive battles to keep an audience hooked. Sea of Sand is a lean, tense story about an SAS patrol deep in the North African desert. Their mission, destroy a German fuel dump. The catch? The desert itself might kill them first. Michael Craig, John Gregson, and Richard Attenborough lead a cast that sweats, limps, and stumbles their way through enemy territory. The heat warps their minds. Every mile is a gamble between getting closer to the target and getting spotted by the enemy. The film thrives on silence, long, quiet stretches where the sound of a distant engine could mean everything. When action comes, it's quick, violent, and ugly. The camaraderie between the men is real, but so is the strain. People die suddenly, without warning, and the grief is sharp. British audiences appreciated its stripped-back realism, but it never caught on abroad, maybe because it wasn't flashy, but that's the point. It's about the kind of heroism that doesn't make headlines, just staying alive long enough to finish the job. They Who Dare 1954. Some war films hand you heroes on a silver platter. They Who Dare hands you a doomed commando raid and says, "Good luck." Based on real events, it follows Dirk Bogarde as the leader of a British Special Boat Service unit and Greek partisans sent to blow up Nazi airfields on a Greek island. From the landing, everything goes wrong. Equipment lost, men scattered, enemy troops everywhere. The Greek landscape is gorgeous but lethal. Every move is a gamble. Every choice feels like it could be the last. The film refuses to glamorize the mission. The soldiers are brave, yes, but they're also scared, exhausted, and unsure if they'll see the next sunrise. The tension never lets go. Audiences at the time weren't ready for a war film without a clean win, so it didn't perform well. Now, it's a rare, honest look at the real cost of sabotage missions. The courage here isn't shiny, it's desperate, ragged, and absolutely gripping. Malta Story 1953. If you think a siege story can't be thrilling, Malta Story will change your mind. Set during the relentless German and Italian bombing of Malta, it follows Alec Guinness as a reconnaissance pilot trying to keep the island alive. Supplies are running out, morale is crumbling, and the Luftwaffe isn't letting up. The island itself becomes a character, battered, stubborn, and holding on by its fingernails. The film blends personal stories with the wider fight, showing civilians, resistance fighters, and military crews all playing their parts. The air raid scenes, combining real footage with staged drama, are intense and chaotic. But it's the smaller moments that hit hardest. A pilot quietly preparing for a mission he might not return from, or locals sharing their last scraps of food. It was a box office success in Britain, but faded internationally, which is a shame because it's one of the best depictions of a siege ever filmed. It's about endurance when there's no guarantee of rescue, and the quiet victories that make survival possible. The Dam Busters 1955. Some war films are pure propaganda. The Dam Busters is pure engineering brilliance, with a side of nerve-shredding suspense. It tells the true story of Operation Chastise, the audacious 1943 mission where the RAF's 617 Squadron used bouncing bombs to destroy German dams in the Ruhr Valley. Michael Redgrave plays Barnes Wallace, the brain behind the weapon, a man obsessed with making the impossible work. The film takes its time showing the endless testing, failures, and stubborn determination needed to get the bomb right. You feel the frustration when prototypes sink and the exhilaration when one finally works. Richard Todd leads the flight crew, balancing precision flying with the knowledge that one mistake means disaster. The final attack sequence is still breathtaking, even by modern standards, shot with a mix of models, real aircraft, and incredible low-level flying. In the UK, it became an instant classic and inspired generations of aviation enthusiasts. Outside Britain, it's remembered mostly for its theme music, which is a crime. This is one of the greatest examples of British ingenuity on film, a war story where brains and guts are equally vital. Appointment in London 1953. Bombing missions over Europe weren't just dangerous, they were a mental grind. Appointment in London puts you in the cockpit for 30 of them. Dirk Bogarde stars as Wing Commander Tim Mason, a bomber command leader haunted by losses and worn down by the relentless pace of operations. The film focuses on the strain of leadership, knowing your orders will send men to their deaths, but sending them anyway because the mission demands it. The aerial sequences, mixing real Lancaster bomber footage with tense interior shots, capture both the thrill and the claustrophobia of long missions over hostile territory. There's also an undercurrent of superstition. Mason believes surviving his 30 missions will break a curse, a psychological hook that keeps you invested. The supporting cast, including Ian Hunter and Dinah Sheridan, give warmth and depth to the story, showing the human cost of strategic bombing far beyond the headlines. It didn't make a huge splash internationally, but RAF veterans praised its accuracy. It's not about glory, it's about the endurance it takes to keep flying when every instinct tells you to stay on the ground. The One That Got Away 1957. Most British war films put the Allies front and center. The One That Got Away flips the script. It's about the only German POW to escape from Britain during the war. Hardy Kruger plays Franz von Vera, a Luftwaffe pilot captured after being shot down, who refuses to accept captivity. The film follows his relentless escape attempts, slipping away during a train transfer, tunneling out of camps, and finally making a daring break to neutral territory. What makes it fascinating is how it avoids turning von Vera into a villain or a hero. He's just an utterly determined man who won't quit. Kruger's performance gives him charm without softening the edge of his loyalty to Germany. The story is full of near misses and clever improvisation, each failure fueling his next attempt. The tension comes not from massive set pieces, but from the meticulous detail of each plan and the close calls that nearly end them. In Britain, it was respected for its honesty and restraint. Today, it's barely mentioned, which is a shame because it's one of the most unusual WWII escape films ever made, and proof that determination doesn't belong to one side alone. The Longest Day, 1962. Yes, it's technically an international production, but Britain's presence in The Longest Day is far too good to skip. This epic D-Day recreation brought together multiple directors and a massive cast, telling the story from the perspectives of both Allies and Axis forces. The British sequences, though smaller in screen time, pack a punch. Richard Todd, who actually fought in the Normandy landings, plays Major John Howard, leading the glider assault on Pegasus Bridge. The precision and quiet tension of that sequence stand out against the chaos elsewhere. The British troops move through the French countryside with a mix of discipline and disbelief, knowing they're part of something massive but still vulnerable to every bullet. The film's strength is its scale. One moment you're in the control rooms with commanders, the next you're on the beaches under fire. The British contribution is shown not as a separate storyline, but as an essential piece of the Allied puzzle. In the UK, audiences appreciated seeing their troops represented authentically among the bigger picture. While it's remembered as a Hollywood epic, the British elements are just as vital, and they remind you that victory came from coordination, grit, and no small amount of luck. San Demetrio, London, 1943. One of the earliest wartime British dramas, San Demetrio, London tells the true story of a merchant tanker torpedoed in the Atlantic. Abandoned and aflame, it seems doomed. But a handful of the crew return, determined to bring her home, even without an escort. The tension isn't in battles with the enemy, but in the slow, dangerous process of coaxing a crippled ship across U-boat-infested waters. Fires are fought, leaks patched, and engines coaxed back to life with whatever parts the crew can scavenge. Every day at sea is a gamble. The film blends stage scenes with wartime realism, giving you a strong sense of the Merchant Navy's quiet heroism. There's no glamour here, just oil-stained overalls, smoke-blackened faces, and the stubborn refusal to give up on their ship. It was popular in wartime Britain when audiences understood the merchant service's vital role. Over the years, it's been eclipsed by louder, more action-heavy films. But San Demetrio, London is proof that courage isn't always about charging into battle. Sometimes it's about getting your battered vessel and yourself home in one piece. So there you have it. 15 British WWII epics that prove war cinema isn't all hero speeches and sweeping scores. Some of these films are gritty survival tales, others are ingenious escape stories, and a few are just plain odd, but every one of them captures a side of the war we rarely see anymore. Which of these do you think deserves a proper revival? Drop your thoughts in the comments, subscribe for more deep dives, and keep watching, because Britain's cinematic war stories still have plenty of secrets left to tell.